Get ready to uncover some of the most fascinating archaeological treasures ever found. From distant corners of the earth and across countless eras, each discovery reveals something extraordinary. These remarkable finds have stories to tell, and we can't wait to share them. The city of Pompeii in Italy is probably the most famous archaeological site in the world. Hundreds of discoveries have been made there over the years, and yet the discoveries keep coming. In 2018, a team working in the Reggio 5 region of Pompei excavated a row of houses with fully intact second-floor balconies. The balconies are so well preserved that they still have their original tile roofs, railings, and even a few amphorae that had been left on them to dry out in the sun before the volcano struck. Some of them even have frescoed walls with their original colors still not only visible, but vivid. Most houses unearthed in Pompeii no longer have their second floors because they collapsed under the weight of all the pumice and ash from the eruption of Vesuvius, so these properties are rare and precious finds. Preserving and stabilizing the homes and their balconies is a project that may take years, but it's eventually hoped that visitors will be able to walk from the existing Via di Nola and Alley of the Silver Wedding to the fully excavated properties on a new route. Our next discovery takes us to Cornwall in England. It's an earthenware pot which dates back to the Bronze Age. The artifact is impressively old, but wouldn't normally be all that exciting, as earthenware discoveries from this era are relatively common in England. What makes this one different is that it's not empty. The 4,000-year-old pot is believed to contain human remains. If experts are right about this, this is a fully intact human cremation and burial. The pot was discovered with a cluster of other Bronze Age artifacts, including flint tools and other pieces of pottery, at a site called Hendersick Barrow, close to Looe. The barrow is in the middle of a farmer's field, so the archaeologists responsible for the discovery thanked their lucky stars that it had somehow never been damaged by a plow in all the years it's been buried there. We don't have any idea why the people who lived in this part of Cornwall during the Bronze Age buried their people in barrows, and it's possible that we never will. The soil in this part of England is acidic, so a lot of burials, artifacts, and other relics from this era are destroyed long before archaeologists find them. The bronze matrix of Sarmazegatusa, Regia, Romania, is a historical artifact so fascinating that even though it was discovered in 2013, it wasn't presented to the wider world until 2016, after researchers had spent 3 years studying it. The hexagonal piece is more than 2,000 years old and is a fascinating example of ancient abstract art. It's the only one of its kind that's ever been discovered in Europe, and it might never have been found had it not been for a storm that uprooted a tree in Romania's Sarmazegatusa Regia Archaeological Park, revealing the matrix hiding among its roots. The purpose of this object was to create other objects, usually decorative ones, by a combination of stamping and casting. That's why the exterior faces of the matrix are covered in carvings of mythological creatures drawn from the folklore of many early European civilizations, along with real-world animals like lions, rhinos, bears, wolves, and antelope. Aside from being a one-of-a-kind find, this ancient mold is also remarkable for being in such good condition. It must surely have been used to make hundreds of ornate pieces in its time, and yet after the mud from the tree roots was washed away, it was found to be in a near-immaculate state. When Mount Vesuvius blew its top in the year 79 and buried Pompeii under ash and debris, it was the greatest natural disaster that Italy had ever seen. But as we said a moment ago, it also created the greatest archaeological site that historians have ever known. Archaeologists have been working through the site for well over 200 years, and in December 2018, they made the incredibly rare discovery of the remains of a horse still wearing its harness inside its ancient stable. Based on the evidence at the scene, it's likely that the stable stands on the grounds of the former home of a high-ranking Roman military officer. According to Massimo Ossana, the head of the long-standing archaeological park that's been established at Pompeii, it's likely that the horse came to a terrible end. I mean, that's true of everyone and everything that perished in Pompeii that fateful day. Most of Pompeii's wealthy residents had horses, but horses are rare discoveries at the site. Experts think that's probably because the residents would have used their horses in an attempt to escape the catastrophe, some of whom may even have succeeded. In April 2018, it was decided that the old Newington Hotel in York, England, would be redeveloped into houses. As part of the process, the hotel's swimming pool was ripped out. To the astonishment and terror of construction workers, more than 70 human skeletons were found beneath the pool. Professional archaeologists were summoned to the scene, and quickly identified that these were the remains of Roman soldiers and their families. It's now thought that this is one of the oldest Roman burial grounds ever discovered in the British Isles, created not long after the Romans seized control of the territory in the mid-1st century. The really odd thing about the discovery is that the skeletons weren't buried particularly deep below the pool. It seems impossible that the skeletons wouldn't have been seen when the hotel was built in the 19th century, which raises the possibility that the original builders were entirely aware of what they were building on top of, but decided to keep it quiet and press on with their project. In May 2018, amateur metal detectorist Louise Stahlschmidt unearthed a few melted lumps of bronze in a field in Trompgard, Jutland, Denmark. She initially thought they were just a few ancient buttons, but she was wrong. When she posted pictures of her finds online, they were spotted by Jeppe Bull Jepsen of the Van Cecil Historical Museum. Jeppe immediately recognized the objects as bronze fittings of the kind associated with Iron Age wagon burials and excitedly arranged a full excavation of the site. His suspicions were correct. The entire wagon was still down there in the ground. The reason the pieces that Louise found were melted is that the wagon was deliberately set on fire at the time of the burial. This is atypical of what we think we know about wagon burials 2,200 years ago, and experts aren't sure what its significance was. It can't have been intended as an insult to the deceased. The grave is laden with too many fine grave goods for that. Aside from the wagon, archaeologists also found a drinking horn, bronze kettles, a drinking glass, gold rings, and broken silver pieces of drinking cups. This was clearly a person of great importance. Archaeological sites require regular maintenance. In April 2018, experts in Egypt decided to reduce the level of groundwater at the site of the Kom Ombo temple in Aswan. When they did so, they found a marble sculpture of the head of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The emperor is depicted as having curly hair and a beard, which is consistent with the majority of contemporary representations of him. He ruled during the 2nd century and was a notable writer and philosopher, as well as a leader. Statues of Roman emperors, especially those as significant as Marcus Aurelius, are relatively common in Italy, but it's rare to find one in Egypt. As you can see from these images, the emperor's marble head is damaged. Experts think that it was probably once part of a full-size statue of the emperor, and that it may have been deliberately decapitated as a show of defiance. However, the fact that it was found in a well means it's possible that it was thrown in there as a votive offering. We'll never know for sure. You would expect the oldest example of gold work ever discovered in British history to be in a museum, and it is now, but that's not where it was found. In April 2018, this gold strip, thought to be 4,500 years old or more, was found by a collector inside a box of spare watch parts at a car boot sale. That's the British equivalent of a garage or rummage sale or a flea market. John Workman, who spotted the gold strip and thought it might be valuable, bought it for next to nothing and took it to experts. They confirmed its age and speculated that it might once have been a piece of jewelry, or perhaps a sword decoration during the Bronze Age. Similar-looking items have been found in the country before, but none this old. The material would have been extremely rare in the country in that era, because no gold mines existed in the country, and so any that could be found would have been obtained by panning. Despite being so small, it was thought that it might be worth up to $3,000 should John choose to part with it. That's more than 100 times what he paid for it, so it's no surprise he cashed in. Our next discovery is a bit macabre, yet fascinating at the same time. It concerns the mummified hand of a child, discovered in a medieval cemetery in Hungary in 2018. The rest of the child's body had been skeletonized, but the hand, forearm, and part of the upper back were mysteriously preserved. Scientist Janos Balázs studied the phenomenon and came to a remarkable conclusion. The tiny copper coin found in the child's hand was responsible for the partial mummification. Copper is known for its antimicrobial properties, but preservation of this magnitude had never been documented before. At the same time, Balázs discovered that the child had been buried centuries after the cemetery's primary use. Most burials dated from the 12th to the 16th century, but this infant likely died about 150 years ago. The most plausible theory is that it was a stillborn child from a nearby family. The grieving mother, perhaps without access to formal funeral rites, wrapped the baby in a cloth, buried it in the abandoned cemetery, and placed a coin in its hand as a symbolic offering according to an ancient European burial tradition, possibly intended to help the soul pass into the afterlife. While similar customs have been recorded in other parts of Europe, this is the first documented case of such a ritual in Hungary. We're heading back to England now to look at another ancient Roman discovery. It's a 1,600-year-old sarcophagus, and it was found close to Borough Market in London in 2017. The discovery was made by accident during construction work. The stone sarcophagus is impressive, but it's not as grand a discovery as it could have been. Unfortunately, it seems the construction workers aren't the first people ever to find the artifact. Its lid was open when it was found, and it contained nothing but soil. It seems the body, along with anything else that may have been inside it, was stolen by tomb raiders, most likely during the 18th century. However, the design and quality of the stone sarcophagus have convinced experts that the person it once contained would have come from a wealthy household, possibly someone of nobility. A full excavation of the area seemingly confirmed this find, as the sarcophagus turned out to have been built into the walls of a mausoleum. Such burials were reserved only for the elite of Roman society. The sarcophagus is now in the hands of the Museum of London, but has yet to be put on display to the public. In December 2022, archaeologists in Turkey made a startling claim. They believe that they've found the world's oldest narrative scene. It's a stone carving at a site called Cyberk, and the experts believe it to be 11,000 years old. The scene is made up of two panels and depict human figures interacting with animals. The first scene shows a man holding his genitals while being approached from either side by leopards, and the second shows a man squatting and seemingly brandishing a snake at a bull. The two panels are adjacent to each other horizontally, thus indicating that they were intended to be seen together, and so can be interpreted as a narrative. The scientists and archaeologists who've made the claim haven't done so in haste. The initial discovery of the carvings happened in 2021, after which more than a year of careful study and investigation was carried out. Ancient residential buildings and communal structures have been found in the area in the past, indicating the presence of an early farming community. Excavation work is still ongoing as of early 2023, so it's possible that more discoveries will be made. Our next discovery happened in January 2023, or at least partially happened in January 2023. This stunning gold and enamel pendant was found in the old city district of Mainz, Germany in 2008. Experts thought it might be a 12th century reliquary, but couldn't open it to find out, because the delicate state of the artifact meant that opening it without breaking it was impossible. They tried to X-ray it in 2008, but the results were inconclusive. They're now in no doubt that it is indeed a reliquary, because the pendant has been scanned in 2023 using a method known as neutron tomography. The results show 5 small packets inside the pendant, within each of which are splinters of bone. It's to be presumed that these are the partial remains of a significant religious figure, although it may never be possible to verify that person's identity. Reliquaries like this usually also contained a strip of parchment to proclaim the name of the person whose remains they contain, but that doesn't appear to have been the case for this one. This promising new method may now be used on other ancient artifacts to peek inside them without damaging them. Subscribe now and turn on the bell so you don't miss a thing. Fascinating discoveries await you in every video. Thanks for your support. See you soon.